There's going to be a few things that we go through today. The first one, which is the most important, is just creating a safe space, right? We're talking about numbers that really do matter a lot to people. It can be a sensitive topic. We will then look at the report, what it looks like when it prints out, and the things that you want to have a really keen eye to see. And then from there, with that information, with your conversation with the member about setting the attainable goals with all the information we have. And in all of that, using respectful language, because how we say things matters. So especially in this situation, we got to be very mindful of it. The body scan, it is intimate. We want to make sure that we're in a private space so we could have this conversation, that it's judgment-free and professional. Lead with as much empathy as possible. And that is like a collaborative team effort, which we will get into more detail shortly. Right? So when people are coming in for the scan, if you're helping them, obviously you say like, hey, what's up? What's happening? All right, let's do your scan. You know, especially for people that's the first time. I know here we have a lot of new members. So just letting them know this is just a starting point for us. Right, we're going to use this to really curate and develop a program for you to come in and crush it and work towards those goals. So just going in with an open mind and understanding that where we are now. So we just use it as a tool to assist in the growth and development that they get within their training program. And especially with the challenge, we couple that in with some nutrition information, which, misses from our day-to-day within the studio. So that combined, we get set some really great goals. And I always say that first little conversation when you're telling them to take off their socks and their Apple Watch, everything before they step on, setting that expectation. Like this is just a starting point, and it just is a great foundation for us to work from. Page is going to print out, and it's going to look like this. So there's a few things that come out. This box, which is called the muscle fat analysis, is giving us some pretty key metrics. It's going to give us their weight. It's going to give us their skeletal muscle mass. So just think of that as the muscle they have on their body, and then their body fat mass. So think of that as the amount of fat in pounds they have on their body. So it's overall weight, their muscle, and their fat, if we put it in simple terms. You're going to see some letters here. What is one letter that someone sees?
D.
Thank you, Leanne. It is a D. Okay. What's another letter?
C.
A C. Yes, whoever said that. And the last one's an I. Okay. If you connect the dots on the ends of those lines, we're going to see some letter formation. So your I is essentially your balanced body. Your D, if you look at that top one, shows more muscle mass than weight, a lot of muscle on that person's body, and then lower fat mass. So we're getting that D shape. For C, if we have higher weight, lower muscle, and then higher fat, that goes into your weak or obese type shapes. Another key thing to point out here, this middle bar that has the dash in it, that is the average for whoever stepped onto the machine, their gender, age, and height. So it takes those things into consideration, and that gives the norm of where people should be within that like average range. Some machines give it a different image for this segment lean analysis. One of them looks like a person standing there, and it breaks down the information in the same way, which is really great for the days that we do unilateral movements. It's showing us the muscle on each part of the body, right? So your right arm, left arm, your trunk, your right leg, and your left leg. So from here, we get to see what's balanced and what's imbalanced. Right? So we have upper body is balanced. If we look at the right and left arm, 102.1 versus 102.4, that's pretty balanced to me. However, the legs, your right leg, 104.7, and your left leg is 107.7. That one quad is a lot bigger than the other. All right. So this could be an indication of someone who had an injury that's recovering, right? They lost a little bit of that mass because of their injury. And it is a great tool to use for people when we do have a lot of those workouts where we are working one side at a time. This gives them the insight and the knowledge that they can push a little bit more on that one leg versus the other, so they can reach that balance. Any questions on this part?
Vass, I would love to quick add to that too. Lone Star is such a fabulous workout, and we see it every so often, but it's not all the time. We don't always have a workout where it's programmed as a unilateral movement. You can always make something a unilateral movement. If somebody has really imbalanced, so either lower body, upper body, whatever, you can turn something into a unilateral movement. If you go through this with somebody and you see wow, your left leg is so much stronger than your right. I want us to really focus on building up your right side, especially in the base phase, especially at the beginning of a challenge. Correcting those imbalances is going to be super important. So you can feel free to take a movement in the programming that's dual-sided and really isolate that weaker side to try to correct it. So don't just wait for Lone Star to come back into programming. We can use that at any time.
Yeah, I love that. And I can actually can you go back one slide for me? So yeah, let's say this printed out and now we're on the scale. I know I talked about them, but I want to kind of talk about what that conversation looks like, right? So this is going to print out. And these are the things that I would kind of note, like, okay, great. So the first things that I would look at is this section. You have your fat, you have your skeletal muscle mass, which is going to be the muscle in pounds on your body, and then the body fat mass in pounds on your body. And these are the metrics there. I would describe how this bar with the dash, that's kind of just the average of where you're at. If it does look like a C, which is a little more of a sensitive topic for people, just reminding them it's just a starting point, right? That's why we do these challenges. That's why we're here to support you. So this is just our starting point. We have the next 45 days where we're going to work together to really reach your goals, and these will change. So that's kind of how that conversation looks like, and those are the ways that I point those things out. Okay, so when CSG sends the tracker, this is the information that you're really looking to write down and track. Essentially, it breaks down that muscle fat analysis into just different parts, and that's where they are. So that first green square is your body fat mass, which is the same as that last row in the muscle fat analysis. So it's just put up at the top. And then you have your weight, and then on the right, you have your lean body mass. So those are the ones that we use to track as we do our second scans at the end. Other things to note, you will see at the top right, it has plus body fat mass. I have to go really close, I'm so sorry. And then your lean body mass with the plus, and then the body fat mass with the minus. So essentially, it's saying for this person to be in that average category, because right now this one is a C shape, to get it towards more of an I, which is your balanced, it is saying that this person should lose 22 pounds, but gain 8.4 pounds of muscle, right? So they're not losing 22 pounds because they will be gaining 8. So really a 16-pound loss because they will be gaining some of that muscle back. So that's kind of giving you your, again, using that average bar. So it doesn't mean that that has to be what their goal is. So that's just the rough estimate is what I tell people, because people will look at it and be like, oh my God. No, I just say this is based on the average. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that those are your goals, and that's something we're going to talk about right now so we can make sure we're setting the right goals for you. And we're doing a challenge for a reason, right? So I love that Anna put that in there. It is the challenge after all. That's the point. The point is, so we get a starting point, we're going to set some goals and hopefully get better and reach them. They're going to want to lose fat and build muscle. So we're going to focus on building lean muscle over the next 6 weeks. When you do that, if that's the phrasing you use, that works in conjunction with losing fat, if fat's like a sensitive word for people. And so I always kind of lean towards that of just, you know, we're going to work on building some lean muscle, right? And we're going to talk about what that programming looks like in a second as well. Why I refrain from using the word fat is because I know that how much of an impact our language has in helping people build confidence. The InBody is going to give you a lot of data. Sometimes the data doesn't look so pretty, and we don't want that to discourage members. That being said, people are still going to be discouraged when they see their first scan. I think it's so important to remind them that we're doing this challenge for this reason, right? Like, we're going to work together as a team. You're part of the red team or the blue team. Coach whoever is going to be there to cheer you on. We're going to be here in studio. You know, we're going to make that progress. And I always like to talk about I've done a lot of challenges, and I have seen people transform within the 45 days. Like, I have seen people become new people, and you're like, oh my God, you're the same person. It's an inner thing for them to really work on, because we can't be there to have every meal with them as much as I would love to. And that's why the nutrition part, when we get into that, and when they look through their app and get the recipes, like, and I think when we do the scans, I always like to talk about it at the end as well. So as I digress back to here, you want to use language that connects to their goals. It focuses on action, which is really important, and reminds them that we're a partner, right? We're here as a team to do this together. It's going to keep the experience positive, empowering, and really growth focused, which I think is so important. It's member centered, right? We're going to talk about their goals. There's no judgment. Like, this is like, that's why you're at the gym, right? That's why you all do it. I think that's why you're here. Action oriented. What are the next steps? We're not focusing on like what this data is giving us currently. We're focusing on what's ahead and what's coming up. And the challenge is collaborative. That's why we have teams, and that's why it is built the way it is, because we're all in it together. So instead of who can read me the first one,
You need to lose weight.
Thank you. And who would like to retry this instead?
Based on your goals, we want to work on reducing fat mass while keeping the muscle you built.
Yeah, right. Like we are saying the same things, but and being very aware of our language. Based on your goals, based on the conversation we just had, we're going to work on reducing the fat mass while keeping the muscle that you built or will continue to build. We are saying the same things, but the latter of those is a little more collaborative. It's member focused, it's goal focused, and that leaves them feeling inspired and confident. Love it. Thank you. Who could read the next one?
You're skinny/fat.
Listen, I know it's shocking that it's on there, but I have heard everything under the sun. So just to be aware, just to be very aware of how we use our language. And can someone read the try section?
Let's focus on building some lean muscle and tracking our protein intake.
Yeah, right. We all know in this industry how important the protein is going to be in all of this for them to build that muscle. I was researching this week, 1 pound of muscle burns 70 calories a day, just as part of your BMI, which does help everyone in reaching their goals. So I have a whole talk on my protein situation. So everyone knows that I want to talk about their protein. Who can read the next one?
Oh, wow. Okay, this doesn't look good.
Yeah, I've heard it. Who could read the try?
This is a starting point for the next 45 days. Let's focus on training hard and eating right.
Yeah, there we go. Because like I mentioned earlier, the initial scan isn't the best day for everyone. But just to remind them that it is just a starting point. Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this challenge. That's why we continue to do the challenges. Yes, we're going to be here to build a plan with you so we could focus. We're going to train really hard and we're going to look at our nutrition. All right. So asking the member that you are helping, if they have any questions, provide the affirmation. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate doing the scan today. I'm so excited for your journey, right? Like we're going to be in it together. I'm going to check in next week when I see you about how the protein's going and keeping them accountable. Let's hit your goals together. And that's why we have the groups and we do everything we do in the challenge to help them. With the nutrition aspect, right? So they're going to take this InBody sheet. They're going to put their stats in the app, which will curate their recipes within the F45 training app. It's like 500 calories above if they're trying to gain muscle, 500 if they're trying to lose fat, under. And depending on the time you have, if people have questions about nutrition, one of the key things I always focus on is asking people what their most troubled time is. Right? If they know that they're good for breakfast and lunch because they eat at work and they could be healthy, but it's at night after work when they're hungry and that's kind of when they fall off the wagon. I always tell people start there. Like week 1 of the challenge is start with prepping for your challenged time frame in your day where you kind of navigate away from eating the right macros and what you need. That's always my first starting tidbit and with the protein. And now with ChatGPT, I'm just put everything you ate today in ChatGPT and ask it to tell you how much protein you had. Just do it. For the next 2 days, focus on getting your 1 gram of protein per body pound and planning for your troubled time for your meal and your meals. So that's the little bit I'll give them at the end of the scans because there's not too much time. But again, I lead with compassion and empathy and positivity and being collaborative so they can leave still feeling inspired and excited for the challenge. And I know this is a time that a lot of the trainers will also do their scans. Don't talk about your results in front of people. Do that. Make sure there's no members in the space because I've heard trainers do a scan and be like, oh, I'm fat or I'm this, whatever. And, we all have our things that we navigate towards, but just being mindful in your space, make sure there's no members there. And if you want to converse with someone, another trainer about it, be very mindful that the bathrooms are empty, the shower rooms are empty, and that it is just you guys in that space. It just helps with keeping everything positive and safe for the members. Any questions?
I'm curious about, because we're talking a lot about people's first scans or people's pre-challenge scans. Do you have any thoughts, or does anybody really have any thoughts about the member who has been coming for a while? Maybe this is their second or third challenge, and maybe they're not always reaching the goals they set during the challenge period or in general. Maybe they're starting to feel a little bit discouraged about the results they're seeing over time. I think it's easy for us to sort of prescribe and look to the future, and I'm curious about maybe language for talking about shortcomings maybe that they feel coming up within themselves.
Yeah, I have a very distinct example. When I was managing Sunset Strip, there was a member that had done a few of them and would fall off within a few weeks and just never was fully committed. And when it came time for them to do another one, they didn't want to do it. They were like, I'm not doing this challenge. I called them and actually scheduled a separate time to sit with them to really go through what their workout routine was. What did their health and nutrition look like? We partnered with a meal service just down our street that are all nutritionists, and we gave all of our members like a free consultation. So I paired him with them, and it really was like the diet portion is what needed the refining, and then they did great. So I think sometimes those members that feel discouraged, I've done it a few times, they might just need that extra bit of love and attention to really feel like cared for and re-inspired. I think me having that conversation with him did re-inspire him to commit to it. He really opened up, and I appreciate him being so open and vulnerable with me. But, you know, he's going to get older. He has kids. There was just a lot of things happening. But within that, he got everything in order, and he did really great. So taking that extra time to connect with your members does go a long way.
I'd say things like other factors I think people don't necessarily think can affect like the way their body responds to food and exercise. Like there's other things like sleep. If you're not sleeping enough, your body is not going to behave or respond the same way as if you're getting 8 hours of sleep. Your step count, like things like that, and how consistent people are being. Some people will think, okay, I'm eating vegetables and protein and I'm working out 5 times a week. Why am I not seeing results? You know, your stress levels, your sleep, overall wellness contributes so much to the actual results you're going to see from your body. So that's another thing that can come from that one-on-one conversation. Again, making sure it's private, making sure that people feel like they can really trust you, they can open up to you, so they can be honest about those kinds of things as well. It's a very multifaceted thing. So I think that's something people overlook a lot.
When I deal with members that have that issue, asking them, well, what's going on? Some members will try to behave Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend they do whatever they want. That's not going to help either. But it's part of one, showing that you're invested in them as well as going to help, and then helping them understand things that they don't think about, things that they don't know.
And I will say, if you don't know some of the answers, like, okay, let me connect you with the manager or someone else that can be a little more assistance, especially if it's a newer trainer that's trying to just help out. They might not have all those answers. So don't be afraid to refer them to your manager or someone else. So let's get after it. Let's get our members excited and inspired, and let's crush this last challenge of the year.